As Disney struggles to get away from Genie Plus, the cash cow that is keeping the company afloat but also strangling the theme parks, new language appears to have come out in a rumor for Lightning Lane Premier Pass coming to Disneyland. Let's talk about the differences here on That Park Place. Hello, I am Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter for That Park Place, and here with me is Monsieur VashSky, master of all the passes.
Well, I try to be the master of all the passes, but they've been getting so confusing, Jonas, over the years. With the tier system and the price variability and so forth, and the packages and the this and the that. Jonas, like you have said before, you have to have a degree at Disney.
It's very simple. When you're planning your Walt Disney World Resort vacation, first of all, you need to buy tickets. Then you need to get a reservation. If you're not doing that through the My Disney Experience app, you then need to log in there. And sometime before you get in there, you need to get into the Genie app and not get into Genie Plus, which has been shifted over to Lightning Lane Multipass or Lightning Lane Single Pass, and buy one of those. And of course, once you get your Lightning Lane Multipass, you can then make 3 selections for the day from one of your tier 1s, then one of your tier 2s, perhaps one of your tier 3s. You have to use at least one of those within the same park. I could make this bit go on forever, except that it's deadly serious here, not to mention your virtual queues and all of that. And of course, I am not even going through the full degree in Disney that you have to get in order to get into the parks. However, something popped up, a new rumor that Blog Mickey is reporting on here. Lightning Lane Premier Pass coming to Disneyland Resort. This is a rumor, so, and it's not even our rumor, it's someone else's, but look at that art right there. That looks real to me. I don't know. This posted by Mike over there. A new rumor is floating around social media suggesting that a new Lightning Lane product is coming to Disneyland. The rumor is based on functionality that was briefly deployed on the Disneyland app before being reverted. According to a post on the Disneyland subreddit, the logo below was made available, as was the initial not working functionality of being able to select a date from a calendar to pre-book Lightning Lane Premier Pass. If it was working, the functionality would be limited to guests who had a valid theme park reservation or hotel reservation. Premier Pass, by the way, is a name of a different service. Vash, do you want to briefly, 30-second explanation of what Premier Pass was?
Well, it's kind of funny because the Paris version of Lightning Lane Multipass, I believe is what we're calling it now. Oh boy, you see, Jonas, I'm getting so confused here. It was called, Premier Pass or Disney Premier Access Pass at one point. So they've had Premier associated with multiple passes. Well, even the Disneyland annual passes were at the premier level at one point. So it's getting a little bit confusing if you know your Disney history, that's for sure.
Well, it's also that Premier Pass was the name of the annual pass that got you into both resorts, both the Disneyland Resort and the Walt Disney World Resort. It was not one that you could just find. You had to go to a special website in order to even find out about it. So obviously here, details are sparse about the system, and the Disneyland Resort did not return a request for comment. Currently, multiple skip-the-line options at Disney theme parks around the world use Premier in their titles. Perhaps the most interesting implementation is the Disney Premier Access Pass at Disneyland Paris. With Premier Access, guests can either purchase a single entry at all eligible attractions without the need to pick a return time, or they can purchase Premier Access 1, which is a single entry at a single attraction at a specific time, similar to Lightning Lane Single Pass. So it sounds like you don't need to go through a reservation system for the Disney Premier Access Pass at Disneyland Paris. Is that an accurate read of that?
I thought that was limited to Premier Access 1, but
no, Premier Access 1 is the single entry at a single attraction at a specific. Vash, try to keep up here. I'm your theme park expert for today.
I know. I'm supposed to be the theme park expert, but it really is hard to get to all the details and everything together on this. And by the way, I was going to say that the Premier Annual Pass was the pass that obviously allowed you access to both Disneyland and Walt Disney World, but I got that confused with the Premium Pass, which was the highest tier that you could get for Disneyland itself. That's
Ah.
very, very interesting. But a lot of speculation has been made about this, and even Blog Mickey here speculates as well. If we had to guess, a Premier Access style offering might be where Disneyland is headed with this service, if it ever launches to the public, that is. Purchasing a product that lets you join any eligible Lightning Lane queue at any time once per day would be a tempting product at the Disneyland Resort. I could see that, yes. Because the guest mix overwhelmingly favors locals, it's likely that a product like Premier Access wouldn't be oversaturated. And that's the key here, folks. If we scroll back up in the article, it does say that if it was working, the functionality would be limited to guests who had a valid theme park reservation or hotel reservation. Because they only have 3 resort hotels, maybe 4 if you include the new DVC tower, but really 3 main resort hotels at the Disneyland Resort, that obviously limits how many people are even staying at a resort while on Disney property. And they've always been looking to provide extra incentivization options in order to get people to stay at Disneyland property at the Disneyland Resort. It's a little bit different than at Walt Disney World, where it's such a destination resort. A lot of people do opt for those hotels. It's a very different equation out there in Southern California, that's for sure. So I could definitely see that. And if you only have people who have day tickets, so we're thinking like maybe 25%, 30% of the annual guest mix there being able to access something like this, it could work. But that's the thing. It could.
Well, this is the other problem. When we talk about Universal Express Pass versus Lightning Lane Multipass, it was much easier to say Genie Plus, even though it was still a confusing system. It's essentially the same system with a bunch more words on it now. Genie Plus is cheap enough that you feel silly for not getting it, but also enough people buy it that you feel stupid for having bought it. Whereas the Universal Express Pass, we're talking like $35, $40 max per person on Genie Plus. So when somebody is doing a big vacation, and I'm not saying that is not a lot of money, it is a lot of money, especially if you have a large party, but Universal Express Pass is more in that $150 range on top of your theme park tickets. Even if you get into the park, like you have an employee who has gifted you a pass, or if you're going as an annual pass holder, you would still have to pay a pretty tidy sum of money in order to take advantage of Express Pass. If Premier Pass is a thing they're doing, and it is true, like unlimited Lightning Lane for the day without having to look at your phone, my goodness, that would be a great product, but it needs to be priced in a way that it keeps people from using it. Like 20% of the usage of Genie Plus, Lightning Lane Multipass, whatever it is, so that it actually fixes the line system and doesn't affect regular guests.
Yeah, I think that's very true, and that's why I bring up the limitation that it be restricted to people who have maybe day tickets or hotel guests. So, for example, so Disneyland Hotel has 975 rooms. The villas that they just added, 344 rooms. Grand Californian, add them all up, it's a little bit over 1,000. Pixar Place, 481. That gets us to about 2,863 rooms. If we go ahead and average it out, for guests occupancy, we're talking about 5,000 people roughly, maybe 6,000. And then if we take maybe 25% of your guest mix at any given day at Disneyland Resort, you're probably looking at, I want to say, about 30,000 all combined there with all those totals, which is probably around that 20% figure right there, Jonas, if you have those limitations in place. And if you price it, obviously, accordingly, that could also lower the saturation rate with a product like this. And we've seen disturbing trends even at Disneyland Resort with the implementation of Lightning Lane when it comes to queue access and so forth for certain attractions. I know we did a video on how Little Mermaid was added to the Lightning Lane service out there in Disneyland, and that has had a profound effect on that attraction, a very high capacity attraction, relatively speaking, and one that would rarely go up over 20 minutes. I think at 4 p.m. on a random Tuesday, it was like 40 minutes. So even the effect of adding something like Lightning Lane when you have 50% rates at some points, as has been quoted by the company, it just really shifts,
right,
creates a great imbalance.
This gets into the the incentives for Disney at this point, because Genie Plus right now, when it's low priced, that means that they need to be considering whether or not each individual guest will be getting it. And my philosophy on the theme parks is that they need to be a cultural touchstone for the entire society and not just something for the super rich. It's funny how often we end up talking about and referencing Jurassic Park when we're just talking about normal theme parks here. This is not supposed to be something that is exclusively for the super rich, but maybe Disney is going in that direction. And on the recent SEC filings, the quarterly earnings report, they talked about how they have squeezed out the lower income people who can't afford to go into the park, and the higher income people are going elsewhere. If they get this to where it doesn't affect the everyday guest going into the parks, I think it's a win. And maybe they can get away from Genie Plus. If they can shift in that direction, if they can move away from these line skipping features being something that every single person considers, then I think that's a win for the parks. Because, VIP tours and fireworks dining packages and things like that do not affect a person just walking around. Roping off a section of a walkway that is open for most of the day in order to be there for the exclusive haves versus the have-nots, that's the kind of thing that leaves people with a bad taste in their mouth leaving Disneyland Resort, because that is essentially bringing the class divide into Disney. You can look over there and see people wasting their money on, extra $16 balloons or something like that. And that's you making your decision not to buy something that is overpriced, as opposed to literally something that everybody can't afford when they go through a park like this. I don't want line skipping features in any way at the parks, but if they're here to stay, I would like it to be something that is not something that affects the guests. Price that thing at $150, the same as the price of a ticket, and I don't think that we will have a problem affecting as much of the parks. I would like to see Genie Plus, Lightning Lane Multipass, a Lightning Lane Single Pass, these things going away forever, but to each their own. Vash, wrap this up before I start ranting even more about this company.
Well, yeah, you talk about that class divide. The class divide has always existed in some way, but like you said, it was far more transparent. It's like Club 33. There's rumors of it existing, and if anybody visiting the Disneyland Resort would likely miss it if it had not been, called out by somebody who actually was in the know, right? And I think what we're all looking forward to is less classism. But if you're going to have a system like this, like you said, Jonas, not a fan of these systems being implemented, that's for sure, then yeah, you have to price it accordingly so that everybody's not on the system, and it just degrades everybody's experience, both people who have opted for that system and people who, have not opted for that system. It also does show you here that the company is looking to monetize the Disneyland Resort in very creative ways. They have tried to do this stuff before with varying degrees of success, and now it looks like they're doing it via the line skipping options, which haven't always been a huge buy-in at the Disneyland Resort because you do have a lot of annual pass holders and so forth. So this is going to be very interesting to watch. We have seen the implementation of prefix menus, I believe, at the Carthay Circle restaurant for like a lunch and so forth. So they're trying some stuff out here. We'll see, Jonas. We'll see.
We'll see. But that being said, we want to throw this to our audience here. What are your thoughts on a service like Premier Pass? If it's the one that we think it might be in this rumor, obviously it's still a rumor. Take it with a grain of salt. It could be a system that they're not going to implement that they've thought about implementing here. What are your thoughts on that? Leave those in the comment section down below. Of course, like this video if you like this video, and consider subscribing to That Park Place for all the news. That should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.